movie starts with a view of the sun, which suddenly erupts with huge flames shooting out of it. Shortly after, we see an astronaut named Tom floating in space. Tom has been sending information back to Earth, and he reports that for the past few days, massive fireballs have been coming from the sun. As he continues to speak, his communication cuts off, and just as he's trying to figure out what's happening, a blinding light appears in front of him. It's another fireball speeding toward him. The scene then shifts to Earth, showing a peaceful village named Heatherfield. Two people, Owen and Jane, are outside when they notice something strange falling from the sky. They both move closer to see what it is, but as soon as the object hits the ground, the earth shakes violently, causing a massive earthquake. This earthquake wakes Owen up from his sleep. Meanwhile, Jane spots something else falling from the sky and moves towards it, but the ground shakes again, even more intensely. Owen, still disoriented, gets up and starts looking for Jane. Eventually, he finds her outside, but she is covered in blood. He tries to get her inside the house, but by the time he does, Jane has changed. She has turned into a zombie and attacks Owen. The scene ends here, leaving us wondering what happened to Owen next. We will find out later in the story. The scene shifts to a cafe in the heart of London, where a group of people are enjoying breakfast. Among them is a woman named Grace, who finishes her meal and leaves the cafe. As she walks down the street, she notices something strange falling from the sky, much like what Jane had seen earlier. The object lands a short distance away, and just after this, the ground trembles violently. Earthquake tremors shake the entire city, causing panic as people start running in every direction, terrified by the sudden chaos. Grace, now visibly shaken, manages to make her way back to the cafe, but she's badly injured. When the cafe's waitress, Susan, sees her condition, she hurriedly opens the door to help her. Grace stumbles inside and Susan offers her a glass of water. However, instead of drinking, Grace begins to cough violently and water starts pouring from her mouth. To everyone's horror, blood follows, turning the water red. As panic spreads inside the cafe, a man steps outside to investigate what's happening, but before he can react, a zombie suddenly appears. The group, now in fear for their lives, quickly locks the doors of the cafe to keep the creature out. It's clear that something terrible is happening. Soon, Grace succumbs to the infection and transforms into a zombie. She attacks a man in the cafe, a doctor, biting his hand in the process. In a desperate attempt to protect everyone, the doctor kills her, but the horror doesn't end there. As he watches the chaos unfold, the doctor turns on the TV, broadcasting a chilling message to the public. Stay inside. Do not leave your homes. This warning traps the group inside the cafe. The doors are barricaded with furniture, but the atmosphere is tense as the group fears that more zombies might attack. Gradually, the doctor begins to show signs of the infection. He grows weaker, his movements becoming slower and more erratic. Seeing this, the cafe's owner realizes what's happening, and in an attempt to prevent the doctor from infecting anyone else, he tries to kill him, but it's too late. The doctor, now fully turned, bites the owner. The owner's transformation into a zombie is swift, and soon the cafe's entire situation becomes even more dire. Susan and her friends, desperate to escape the chaos, make their way out through the back door of the cafe. As soon as they step outside, they are struck by the sight of the city in ruins. Buildings are destroyed, and most of the people have turned into zombies, roaming the streets. The situation is terrifying. Susan, trying to stay calm, tells everyone that she has a car nearby where they can find temporary safety. The group quickly heads toward the parking lot, hoping to reach it before more zombies appear. When they reach the parking area, they spot a zombie attacking another man, turning him into one of them. Taking advantage of the distraction, Susan and the others make a dash for her car. They get inside, lock the doors, and breathe a momentary sigh of relief, but their safety is short-lived. The zombie notices them and begins to attack the car, forcing Susan to drive away as quickly as possible. She floors the gas pedal, speeding through the streets, and heads toward Heatherfield, hoping to reach their families. Both Susan and Jim are from Heatherfield, so they decide it's their best option. However, things take a turn for the worse when, halfway to Heatherfield, the car gets a flat tire. They realize they don't have a spare, leaving them with no choice but to continue their journey on foot. As they begin walking, the streets are filled with the horrifying sight of zombies chasing them. They run for their lives and find refuge in a nearby building. Inside, they barricade themselves with wooden planks to keep the zombies out and head for the building's upper floors for safety. As they reach the top, Jim, Susan, and the others discover several corpses scattered around the room. One of the bodies is holding a hammer, which Susan picks up, deciding it could be useful. They move forward, but as they do, the group is suddenly surrounded by a large number of zombies. Panic sets in as they realize they are trapped. In a moment of quick thinking, Jim spots an open window and tells everyone to escape through it. As they try to climb out, the worst happens. Gabe, one of the group members, trips and falls, and a zombie grabs him from behind. His friends pull him out of the window. He's badly injured, but they manage to get him to safety outside. They find another room to hide in, locking the door behind them to keep the zombies away. For a while, they feel safe, and exhaustion takes over, causing everyone to fall asleep. When Gabe wakes up from his nap, he feels something is wrong. He cautiously checks the door and through a small gap, sees a zombie outside. Before he can retreat, the zombie bites his hand, causing panic to spread among the group. After everyone regains consciousness, Benny uses a rod to strike a zombie. The group exits the room and makes their way to the rooftop, where they look out over the city, now completely devastated. Jim discovers a way to descend, and they begin to move forward. However, Jim halts when he notices Gabe, who had already been infected after being bitten by a zombie. Gabe, now turned, attacks Jim. Susan, witnessing this, strikes Gabe in the head with a hammer, killing him instantly. Jim, devastated, grieves the loss of Gabe, his childhood friend. Once outside, the group searches for a secure place to spend the night. They spot a nearby hospital and head there. As they move upstairs, Benny checks a room on the upper floor, only to be attacked by a zombie that bites his finger. Jim arrives just in time to rescue him and lays him on a bed. He and Susan then go in search of a first aid kit. Meanwhile, Katie, Benny's friend, finds a ring in his pocket. Benny reveals that the ring was meant for her, and with a proposal, she accepts. As they share this moment, they hear the sound of approaching zombies and quickly hide. While Jim and Susan are searching for help, they come across a doctor and plead with him to assist Benny, but the doctor coldly refuses. Meanwhile, a zombie spots Benny and Katie and charges at them. In a desperate move, Katie grabs a pair of scissors and drives them into the zombie's head, killing it instantly. However, Benny, now infected and beginning to turn, starts to show signs of becoming a zombie himself. Realizing the danger, Jim and Susan urge Katie to leave the room, but she refuses to abandon Benny. In a heartbreaking moment, Benny, now fully transformed, forces Katie out of the room to keep her safe. At that moment, Jim and Susan arrive just in time to witness the struggle. With no time to waste, the three of them set off, making their way toward their village. After walking for hours, they finally exit the city, only to face one more obstacle, a dense forest. They push through, determined to reach safety, and eventually emerge on the other side, nearing their village. But just as hope begins to rise, the eerie sound of more zombies reaches their ears. Panic sets in, and they sprint towards safety, but in the chaos, Katie is separated from them. Despite their frantic attempts to reach her, Katie is overtaken by the zombies, who finally catch her. Jim and Susan, heartbroken and desperate, rush back to rescue Katie, but they are too late. They find her already fallen victim to the relentless horde. With heavy hearts, they continue on, now only the two of them. They finally reach Susan's village and head straight for her home. Inside, they find only her sister Nicole, who informs them that their parents have also been turned into zombies. Determined to survive, Jim and Susan decide to take Nicole with them and head to Jim's house, hoping to find safety there. When they arrive at Jim's house, they are met with an unexpected sight. Jim's brother, Owen, who had been introduced earlier in the story. When Owen sees Jim, Susan, and Nicole, he is overjoyed and invites them inside with open arms. As they settle in, Jim, eager to know about his wife Jane, asks Owen about her. Owen, however, remains silent, and his reluctance to answer speaks volumes. The realization quickly dawns on the group that Jane, too, must have fallen victim to the zombies. The mood becomes heavy with unspoken grief, and they turn their attention to resting after their long, exhausting journey. But just as they begin to settle in, a horde of zombies gathers outside Owen's house, their eerie moans growing louder by the minute. Owen, ever the protector, grabs his shotgun and bravely steps outside, scattering the zombies with a few well-aimed shots. As the immediate danger subsides, Susan, still on edge, hears an unusual sound coming from one of the rooms in the house. She cautiously approaches and, upon entering, is shocked to find Jane still alive but locked in the room, hidden away by Owen. Owen, entering the room moments later, is calm and offers Jane food, as though nothing is amiss. He then leaves the room, leaving Susan with her thoughts. Over dinner, Susan can't help but ask Owen why he has kept Jane alive for so long, despite the clear danger she poses. Owen quietly explains that Jane, in her zombified state, hasn't harmed him, so he kept her alive as long as he could. His answer is filled with sorrow and a sense of helplessness. After their meal, the group, weary and emotionally drained, retires for the night, hoping to find some peace amidst the chaos. The next morning, however, brings no reprieve. As the sun rises, the group awakens to the terrifying realization that the house is surrounded by zombies on all sides. In a panic, Owen rushes to Jane's room to retrieve his gun, but as he enters, Jane, now fully transformed, attacks him. In a desperate struggle, Owen is bitten and infected. With a heavy heart, he is forced to kill Jane, ending her suffering. He emerges from the room, visibly shaken but resolute, and tells the others they need to escape through the back door immediately. Despite Owen's insistence that they leave without him, Jim refuses to abandon him, knowing the bond they share. In a heartbreaking moment, Owen reveals that he too is infected and his time is running out. With no other choice, Owen takes a final stand. He rushes outside, drawing the attention of every zombie in the vicinity, giving Jim, Nicole, and Susan the chance they need to escape. As soon as they see the opening, the three of them run for their lives, hearts heavy with the loss of another person they cared for, while Owen sacrifices himself to ensure their survival. At the same time, Owen meets his tragic end at the hands of the zombies. Meanwhile, Jim, Nicole, and Susan manage to escape, running through the streets until they find themselves in a desolate graveyard. Nearby, they spot a church and decide to take refuge there. They quickly seal the church doors from the inside, hoping it will provide them with some safety. But the zombies aren't far behind. Soon, the sound of their growls fills the air as a horde arrives at the church. The zombies relentlessly begin breaking down the door. Realizing they can't hold out much longer, Jim tells Nicole and Susan to head to the church's tower, while he stays behind to fight off the zombies. He battles fiercely, but the sheer number of the undead overwhelms him. Just as they close in, Jim makes a desperate escape. He runs toward the tower's entrance, where Nicole and Susan have already arrived. They've locked the door, fearful of the approaching horde. But when Jim calls to them, Susan opens the door just in time for him to climb to safety. Once at the top, Jim surveys the situation and looks down at the church. The horror sets in as he realizes they're surrounded on all sides by zombies with no way out. The weight of their predicament sinks in. They're trapped. Feeling the hopelessness of their situation, the three of them slump down in despair, unable to escape their fate. The movie ends on this somber note, leaving viewers with a sense of dread and unanswered questions. Now, you might be wondering what happened to Jim, Nicole, and Susan. Did they survive? Did they succumb to the infection? Or did the zombies finally get them? The film leaves these questions unanswered, allowing the audience to speculate. It's even possible that a sequel could explore what happens next, continuing their story and offering more insight into the fate of these survivors. One of the biggest mysteries left unresolved is the cause of the zombie outbreak. Why were people turning into zombies in the first place? The answer lies in a strange event: the fireballs that rained down from the sun. These fireballs could have carried a virus or some other kind of contamination, which spread across the earth, triggering the transformation of humans into zombies. This movie follows a familiar zombie genre formula where the infection spreads and turns people into mindless, flesh-hungry creatures. However, it adds a unique twist by introducing fireballs from the sun as the catalyst for the outbreak, making it an intriguing take on the zombie apocalypse genre. For anyone who enjoys zombie films, this movie is worth watching at least once. The suspense and unanswered questions leave room for imagination. And if you enjoyed this explanation, feel free to like the video. That's all for today's video. Thank you for watching.